Personal property, real property, or real estate. Personal property, Chapter 1, nature of property. Society values private ownership of property. Property consists of things plus the right of ownership. All property is divided into two categories: real property, personal property. Personal property, mobility or chattels, or characteristics of personal property. Personal property are things that can be loaded into a van: cars, boats, furniture, also known as chattels personnel. Leases, mortgage contracts to purchase, and options are chattels real. Bill of sale, selling personal property. Real property or real estate. Real property is transferred by deed. Real estate and real property have different meanings. Real estate consists of land and things permanently attached, buildings, trees, etc. Real property, legal rights and interests. Real property is defined as land plus appurtenances. Appurtenances is defined as any rights, interests, or improvements which automatically transfers to the owner. Things that automatically transfer are also known as run with the land. Land, three-dimensional, starts at the Earth's surface rights, passes through the surface and extend into space, air rights. Attachments, tenements, physically or legally attached to the land permanently. Immovable by law, natural attachments or artificial attachment. Fructus naturel, things that grow naturally like trees, plants. They are real property transfer with land. Fructus industrials, crops that are harvested each year, like a homegrown garden, also known as implements. They are personal property. Improvements, buildings, fences, driveway, pipelines, swimming pools, mobile homes. Rights of real property ownership. Note: real estate also include air, minerals, water rights, can be sold or leased separately. Owner might keep land and sell the mineral rights to someone else, vice versa. Water rights, percolating water, underground water that is not owned by anyone. Perk test is used to determine how quickly water is absorbed by the ground. Water table, the level of percolating water. Potable water, good enough to drink. Riparian rights, if your house is next to or borders a body of water, you have a right to use that water. Can use it for swimming, boating, and fishing. Must respect property that borders the water. Also, do not disrespect neighboring owners. Correlative rights, reasonable shares of water during shortage. Prior appropriation, the right to use the water is secured by a permit. Right transfer with ownership. Navigable water, rivers and oceans used for commercial shipping, open to public. Material rights, properties next to navigable lakes, oceans, or seas can be used by owner as long as they don't interfere with public's right of use. Littoral owner have same right as riparian owner, but does not extend to middle of waterway. Minerals on earth or below are considered real property. If removed, they are considered personal property. Mineral rights are coal, oil, gas, and whatever that is. Rights of lateral support. Land must not be damaged when extracting minerals. It's right of lateral support. Law of capture allows well to be drilled on one property. Property changes, real property, land plus appurtenances, personal property, property that is not real. Once real property is moved, like a house or tree from a land, it becomes personal property. Fixtures, a property that was once personal but has become real is called a fixture. A property that was once personal but has become real is called a fixture. Things like built-in appliances in kitchen, carpet, plumbing, built-in cabinet is not always clear if it is or not a fixture. Use the acronym MARY to know if an item is a fixture or not. MARY. First one is modification. Air conditioning, place, and window is personal property, but if a hole is cut specifically for that unit, when it is considered unit, then it is considered a fixture. Attachment, garage door opener, and the remote. Keys to the front door. Relationship of the parties. Trade fixtures, for example, cabinets placed in a restaurant, as long as they are not replacements or personal property. If a tenant does not remove a trade fixture before the lease is over, and no damages will become the landlord property is what the fuck did I write? If a tenant does not remove a trade fixture before the lease is over and no damages. Well, basically, the landlord, if a tenant don't remove something that they put in wherever they staying at, the landlord get the property by accession. Intention of annexing party. Removing anything you think you would want before putting it on the market, because let's say you have a fan that you want to remove, then let it be known, or remove it before showing the house. Agreement, make sure to list in writing any of these doubtful items the seller intend to remove or that the buyer expect to acquire in the sales agreement. Land characteristic. Land can never become personal property because of its physical and economic characteristic. Physical characteristic of land is immobility. Land cannot be moved. Non-homogeneity. No two pieces of land are exactly the same. Indestructibility, cannot be destroyed. The economic characteristic of land is location, preference, situs. Economic characteristic, location, job opportunity, scenery, weather, proximity to school, shopping, or transportation. Improvements such as buildings, driveways, or landscapes that attach to land have an impact on value. Nearby homes can also affect value, and airports, industrial plants, and recreational facilities. Fixed investments such as a building. An investor is more concerned about the return on investment rather than how long a building can last. Economic life, return on investment. Scarcity, supply and demand. In urban areas, land might be more expensive than rural areas where land might be abundant and inexpensive. Description of real property. The way of describing property is through a licensed surveyor, and they use three different forms: meets and bounds, rectangular survey, recorded plate. Spot survey is what a buyer receives at closing. Meets and bounds describe its boundaries, most authoritative, longest and most difficult to prepare and to interpret. Meets are distance and direction. Bounds are landmarks or monuments that serves as markers each time the distance and direction must change. Natural monuments, trees and rocks. Artificial monuments, fences, walls, roads, concrete markers, metal pins, stakes. Bearings are shown in degrees, minutes, and seconds. Meets and bounds must have a place and the property where the survey began, a POB. POB is identified as benchmarks, fixed point set by U.S. Geological Survey. Benchmarks are referenced to each other by distance and direction and are the most reliable references because of their permanent accuracy. If a monument is destroyed, it can be reestablished by relying on the benchmark. Call, direction and distance for each boundary lines. Closure, returning to the point of beginning. If closure can't be established, the description is incomplete. Rectangular survey, government survey, designed in 1785. Faster and simpler than meets and bounds. Uses imaginary lines. Principal meridian, township range, baseline, section. Principal meridian, north-south, longitude, baselines, east-west, longitude, range, wide, north-south, township, east-west. Each township is divided into 36 sections that are 1 mile to a side. A section contains 640 acres. Recorded plates, short forms, description. Plate is recorded at the county courthouse. Provides the most convenient legal description. Vertical and description. Vertical land description. Datum is a base point from which height or depth can be measured. Some cities use benchmarks as secondary point of reference. Another method of vertical land description used by a builder and developer is topographic or contour map. Topographic is three-dimensional. Guidelines for use of legal description in Georgia. Rectangular survey is not used in Georgia. Only meets and bounds methods or the recorded plate.